Have you ever stopped to think that maybe, just maybe, the future of energy isn't all about some brand new sci-fi invention? What if it's more about, cleverly combining the powerful tools we already have? What if a huge part of the solution has been literally floating right there in front of us?
Yeah.
Today, we are diving deep into exactly that kind of thinking. We're looking at a really fascinating study. Its full title is Combining Floating Solar Photovoltaic Power Plants and Hydropower Reservoirs, a virtual battery of great global potential. Our mission really is to unpack how these two established renewable players, solar and hydro, can team up, how they can create what this study calls a powerful virtual battery system. It's honestly quite a clever look at synergy and sustainability.
And yeah, this isn't just some back-of-the-envelope idea. Our whole deep dive today hinges entirely on the detailed analysis from that specific study. It's packed with rigorous data, real-world figures, and some pretty eye-opening global potential numbers. I think it might genuinely shift how you see our energy options.
The renewable giants and their uneasy dance.
Okay, so to really get why this combination is so smart, we probably need to quickly look at the two main players involved here. Hydropower and solar. Let's start with hydro. It's the veteran, right? Been around since, what, the late 19th century?
Yeah, absolutely. They're one of the oldest, most established forms of centralized power generation we have globally. And the scale is just immense. We're talking over 11,170 gigawatts installed worldwide.
Wow. And a gigawatt powers like hundreds of thousands of homes.
Easily. And within that, this study notes about 701 gigawatts of reservoir-based,
Yeah.
the big dams storing water, and another roughly 139 gigawatts is pumped storage hydro, which is kind of like a big water battery itself.
Okay, so hydro, old, reliable, massive scale. Then you've got solar PV, photovoltaics.
Exactly. Solar panels converting sunlight straight to electricity. And compared to hydro, solar PV is definitely the new kid on the block. I mean, it really only started gaining serious momentum maybe the 80s. But the explosive growth, that's mostly happened since 2D10.
And that's down to panel prices dropping like a stone, right?
Precisely. Made it super competitive. The numbers are pretty wild. Like, end of 2016, global PV capacity was around 306 gigawatts. Then, in just 1 year, 2017, another 100 gigawatts got added. Boom.
Just like that.
Yeah, and this study projects that strong growth continuing way up into the multi-terawatt scale. It's clearly a huge part of the future.
Okay, so massive growth for solar. But that growth also highlights its main challenge, doesn't it? The sun isn't always shining.
The intermittency issue, day and night cycles, weather.
So how do you get these two steady, old, hydro and fast-growing but intermittent solar to, well, dance together? How do they collaborate effectively? This study really digs into one of the most promising ways they can integrate.
Why go floating? The hidden advantages of FTV.
And the key to this integration, the core idea, is something called floating PV, FPV, which is, well, exactly what it sounds like, solar panels floating on water.
Right, and at first you might think, why? Why put them on water instead of land? But the study points out some really compelling, almost hidden advantages. It's more than just finding space.
Okay, like what?
Well, first up, the obvious one. Zero impact area, essentially. You're using water surfaces like reservoirs, so you completely sidestep all those land use arguments and competitions for space. These are often areas with hardly any other use, which is a huge plus, especially near populated areas.
Makes sense. Avoids arguments about farmland or natural habitats. What else?
This is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
The water actually cools the panels.
Really? How does that help?
Solar panels, like a lot of electronics, work better when they're cooler. So putting them on water increases their efficiency. You get more power out of the same panel.
Huh, that's clever.
And third, and this is critical, especially in water-scarce places, the panels provide shade. That shade significantly prevents water evaporation from the reservoir. We're talking major water savings.
Okay, wow. So energy and water conservation.
Exactly. And tied to that, less sunlight hitting the water means less algae growth, which improves the water quality, good for drinking water supplies, good for the ecosystem. And finally, water surfaces are usually wide open. No trees, no buildings casting shadows. Plus, you get a bit more reflected sunlight off the water surface sometimes, which can also boost output slightly. It's just optimal conditions.
So, okay, avoiding land conflicts, boosting efficiency, saving water, improving water quality, and getting great sunlight. Yeah. I can see why the study says FPV alone have huge global potential. It solves several problems at once.
Precisely. But the real magic happens when you combine it with hydropower.
The virtual battery unpacked.
Yes, this is where it gets really innovative. When you put FPV on a hydropower reservoir, something extra emerges. The hydropower plant itself can act as a kind of virtual battery for the solar panels. That's the core concept this study explores.
Okay, the virtual battery. Let's unpack that because solar's big problem is that intermittency we talked about, right? Depends on the weather, time of day.
Exactly. Uncontrollable, really. Whereas reservoir hydropower, assuming you have enough water, is highly controllable. You can turn it on or off, ramp it up or down.
So traditionally, hydro might provide steady baseline power, or maybe fill gaps. How does this change things?
Well, think about it like this, according to the study. During the day, when the sun is shining bright, the FPV panels are pumping electricity straight into the grid, peak solar hours. Now, during that time, the hydropower plant doesn't need to generate as much, or maybe not at all. So it can either store incoming water if the river's flowing in, or simply hold back water it would normally release through the turbines. It's saving that potential energy.
Ah, okay. So while solar is doing the work, hydro is essentially charging up by saving water.
Exactly. That saved water is the charge in this virtual battery. It's potential energy stored as water volume. Then, when solar output drops cloudy day, or more importantly, at night, the hydro plant kicks in. It releases that stored water through its turbines, generates electricity, and keeps the grid balanced.
So it smooths out solar's variability using the hydro's flexibility.
Perfectly put. It uses the high flexibility of hydropower plant operation, as the study calls it, to manage the energy flow. It's like having a massive energy storage system without building expensive new batteries. The storage is the water itself, managed smartly.
That's incredibly elegant. You harness the sun, and when the sun goes down, this huge natural battery, the reservoir, just takes over seamlessly, using infrastructure that, in many cases, is already there.
That's the beauty of it.
Global potential and the mind-blowing numbers.
And this study wasn't just conceptual. They really crunched the numbers on a global scale. They used something called the Global Reservoir and Dam Database GRAND, for short. It maps out known reservoirs worldwide.
How many are we talking?
The database covers over 6,800 reservoirs, and the study identified about 2,134 of those as having hydropower facilities. So a solid base for calculations.
Okay, so what did they find? What's the potential?
Get ready for this. They calculated that covering just 25% of the surface area of only the hydropower reservoirs, which is about 263,000 square kilometers, roughly the size of the UK, maybe a bit bigger, you could install 4,400 gigawatts peak of FPV capacity.
4,400 gigawatts. That's
Yeah.
staggering. That's almost 4 times the current total global hydro capacity we mentioned earlier.
It is, and that capacity, they estimate, could generate around 6,270 terawatt hours of electricity annually.
Okay, 6,270 TWH. We need some context here. How big is that?
Well, think about energy storage needs. Bloomberg New Energy Finance reckons the global storage demand by 2030 might be around 300 gigawatt hours. This FPV potential is measured in terawatt hours annually. Or, look at it this way. Some studies suggest a fully renewable grid by 2050 might need around 15,000 PWH of storage globally. Now remember, current hydro generation from reservoirs is about 2,500 TWH per year.
Right.
This FPV potential, from just 25% coverage at 6,270 TWH, it generates more than double the electricity currently produced by all those existing hydro reservoirs combined.
Wow. Okay, so it's not just supplementing hydro. It could actually dwarf its output while also making solar reliable.
That's the implication. And it gets bigger. If you expand the idea to cover 25% of all types of reservoirs, irrigation, recreation, everything in the GRAND database, the potential capacity jumps to 5,700 gigawatts.
And the generation.
An estimated 8,039 terawatt hours annually. That's nearly 30% more just by including non-hydro reservoirs.
Wow, incredible.
And don't forget the water-saving aspect we talked about. Right. With that wider coverage on all reservoir types, the study estimates you could prevent around 74 billion cubic meters of water evaporation each year.
74 billion. That sounds like an astronomical amount of water.
It is. The study suggests this could increase overall water availability from these reservoirs by about 6.3%. And that saved water actually adds more potential generation to the hydropower plants themselves, about 142 TWH, because the water levels are higher. The study really hammers this point. In water-stressed areas, the evaporation savings alone, potentially 50% to 80% reduction depending on coverage, could be the main driver for FPV.
So it's an energy solution and a water security solution rolled into one. Amazing synergy. Where's the biggest potential geographically?
The study highlights places like Siberia, Eastern Europe, Nordic countries, bits of North and South America, Central Africa. areas with large reservoirs. But they pinpoint one specific area with the absolute most potential, the largest controllable reservoir shared by Kenya and Uganda. Huge water body, fantastic solar conditions, a perfect combination.
Real-world steps and the path ahead.
Okay, the potential numbers are mind-blowing. But potential is one thing. Is this actually happening? Are we seeing FPV being built?
We are, yes. The study includes data on existing installations. It's still early days compared to the potential, but it's definitely growing. China is way out in front with over 376 megawatts installed according to the data timeframe. Then you have Japan, the UK, South Korea, Australia, all with installations ranging from a few megawatts up to maybe 20 or so. The US, Italy, Spain, France, India, even Singapore and Canada have small projects too. So there's activity globally, even if the scale varies a lot.
So people are dipping their toes in the water, so to speak.
Exactly. And bigger projects are announced. The study mentions things like 200 megawatts planned in Indonesia, another 1.1 gigawatts in China, and crucially, that first combined FPV hydropower project, the virtual battery in action, was recently built in Portugal.
So it's being proven in the real world.
Yeah, and it signals a shift. The study notes how in places like southern Mexico, Turkey, Argentina, you're seeing hydropower move away from being just steady base generation. Instead, it's operating more flexibly, more intermittently, specifically to cover the gaps when solar isn't generating. It's adapting to support solar.
Makes sense. But are there downsides, limitations? No solution is perfect, right?
Absolutely, and the study is clear about these. First, it's obviously geographically limited. You need reservoirs.
You can't just put it anywhere.
Right. And it's still subject to seasons and weather, affecting both solar input and water availability. The virtual battery capacity itself is limited by the reservoir size. It's huge, but not infinite. And sometimes, the best potential sites like remote parts of Siberia or the Amazon are far from where most people live, which means big transmission challenges and costs.
Okay, so practical hurdles to overcome.
Definitely. But despite those limitations, the study's conclusion is pretty powerful. FPV combined with hydro is a massive step forward. A huge plus is that the storage part of the system, the reservoir and dam, is already built in many cases.
Which should make it much more cost-effective than building giant battery farms from scratch.
Potentially, yes. Very cost-effective compared to some other hybrid renewable plus storage options. But it's not the answer to all storage needs, of course. We'll still need other technologies for, electric vehicles, portable electronics, things like that. This is mainly for grid-scale balancing. Still, for tackling that specific huge challenge, the scale of this opportunity. Honestly, when I first read through these figures, I was genuinely taken aback.
So wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway for you listening? I think it's this incredible synergy. Floating solar plus hydropower creates this elegant virtual battery with just enormous global potential. It's not only about massive clean energy generation, but also about saving vast amounts of water. A true win-win.
Yeah, this study really drives home that even being conservative, just covering a quarter of existing reservoirs, FPV could generate so much more electricity than the hydro dams currently do. And it does it while solving solar's big intermittency problem. It really points towards a more resilient, sustainable grid.
It definitely makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What other technologies that we already have, maybe technologies we take for granted, could be combined in new ways? What other hidden synergies, other virtual batteries might be out there waiting for us to connect the dots, maybe hiding in plain sight? Something to ponder. Remember, you've just taken a deep dive with us into combining floating solar, photovoltaic power plants, and hydropower reservoirs, a virtual battery of great global potential.